Thank you so much for joining me. And today we're going to be talking at Trader's Friend about trading Forex as a career, not just trading it as a side hustle, but actually making a career out of it. And I'm going to be talking about it from 3 or 4 aspects. Let me just go through them first of all. So we're going to talk first about the changing work environment, which is changing more rapidly than I think anyone in the past has ever experienced before. Secondly, I'm going to talk about why you should consider trading Forex as a career. And then thirdly, I'm going to talk about the kind of personality you should have in order to make it work. So let's get started straight away and just talk a little bit about the changing work environment now that we're in 2025 and we've had the advent of AI. Now, I was brought up in the 1950s and 60s and went to school then, and things were very different back then to what they are now. Kind of difficult for somebody my age to really keep track and keep up with the changes that are happening, because back then, I think I went through my entire schooling without any noticeable or real changes happening in the work environment. And basically, it was pretty cut and dried. If your father was an accountant or a doctor, you ended up going that route. If he was a working person, plumber or something like that, then you'd follow in his footsteps. And so there wasn't a lot of confusion about it. It was very stable. If you did become an accountant, you were an accountant for life, probably. And if you were a plumber, you were probably a plumber for life. And especially where I was brought up, we were part of a privileged society and things were pretty easy. You didn't even need to go through a whole 12 years of schooling to get a good job. You could get one by leaving school early and still do very well for yourself. Now, shortly after I left school, things started to change with the introduction of computing, personal computing. But even then, things didn't change that much, and it was fairly slow. But recently, in the year 2025, we've kind of hit change, which is like rocket propelled. And I was listening to one of the leaders in the AI movement or industry, and this person was saying that in the next few years, it could be that 50% of all existing jobs today, or white-collar jobs, won't exist. And that going to university is going to just be a waste of time because there won't be any jobs for you. So it really is necessary to look around for something that is going to still be there, where you don't need to be employed by anybody, and yet still have an opportunity to make a very good income, which is why I'd like to suggest to you that you consider carefully making a career out of trading Forex, not just using it as a means of making a little bit of extra money on the side, because it is pretty difficult to make money treating it like that. You've really got to become pretty serious about it and commit yourself to it, to becoming excellent at it. Because if you're not excellent at it, you're going to lose money. And it's pretty much like that with most things. If you want to be an accountant and you're not really good at it, nobody's going to want you. So with anything that you can make money in life, honestly, you really have to commit to it and become excellent and develop real skills in it. And that is what I'm suggesting to you, that you commit a year or 2 of your time, full-time, to learning this business, because there is tremendous opportunity in it for serious people. Okay, so let's have a look at some of the reasons why I suggest that you should consider it as a career fairly seriously. And the first one is that it's non-competitive. In other words, you don't have anybody to compete with except yourself. You know, it's not like when you apply for a job and there's 300 other people highly qualified applying for it at the same time, and you don't really know what the recruiter is looking for. And your chance of getting it out of 300 other people is very slim. And so it's really non-competitive in that you don't have to apply for a job. All you have to do is develop the skills. That could be quite difficult, bearing in mind the fact that there's not a lot of places out there where you can develop the skills, but there are a few. So it's non-competitive. Your biggest competitor is yourself. Things like greed, which will lead you to making mistakes. Things like fear, which will keep you out of good trades. Laziness, because you can't discipline yourself to work as your own boss. Things like that. So yes, you in this business, you are your greatest enemy. You are the person you're going to have to compete against. Your weaknesses, your human weaknesses that are going to keep you from making a good living. But if you can overcome those things, and you have the power to do that, only you can decide that. But if you can overcome yourself and your own weaknesses, then you can make a very good income out of this business. The next reason that I have for recommending trading Forex as a career is because there are tremendous opportunities in it, and I'll tell you why. Because trading Forex is about an industry that never sleeps. You can trade it right throughout any day. It doesn't matter where you are in the world, you can trade it, as long as, of course, you've got a good internet and a computer. I wouldn't suggest doing it on a phone, because you need to be able to view your screen that you're using and your apparatus clearly. So sitting next to the seaside with your cell phone, I would recommend you don't do that. But yes, there's tremendous opportunity in it because it's based on the fact that all around the world, people need to exchange money for various reasons. I mean, central banks, they are constantly using currencies to protect their own currency. And they have to buy and sell currencies for that purpose. And we're talking about billions of dollars worth. In fact, the whole industry is said to be over $7 trillion worth of exchange every day, right throughout the world. You know, you've got these huge companies that they have to buy things internationally. And if you do that, you've got to have dollars. So if you're in Australia and you want to do some international transactions worth a few billion Australian dollars, you first got to convert that into US dollars, because virtually the whole world is based on, the trade of the whole world is to a large extent based on US dollars. So there's this huge movement of currency happening all the time, which gives it a lot of movement, far more movement than you get on trading stocks and things like that. And you also, in most cases, have the opportunity to not only trade Forex or currencies, but you have the opportunity to trade various other things like gold and silver, or stock indexes, which are quite interesting, like the UK 100 and US 500. And you can also trade Bitcoin as well. So you have all these different options to look at, which gives you tremendous opportunity every day, not just every week, but every day, to make money. Okay, and another reason is it's pretty comfortable. You know, you don't have to get in a car and travel to work through the traffic and spend an hour going to work and an hour coming back. All you have to do is go to wherever your computer is, and I would recommend you have a quiet place that is not disturbed all the time and put you off for concentration. But really, you can choose where you want to trade and where you want to work from, and you can control your own working environment. And another thing is you don't have to worry about some difficult boss who makes life difficult for you, or difficult fellow employees. You don't have this competitive work environment and the politics of organizations. I mean, I remember working in an organization, there was constant politicking going on. People want your job, people trying to put you down all the time, and jealousy and all kinds of things in the office politics. You don't have to put up with that. Yeah, it can get a bit lonely at times, but I mean, you can solve that. Just go down to the coffee shop and have a chat to people when you want to do it. So it's got an awful lot going for it, as opposed to your standard kind of job. Now, there's another reason for it, and that is that over the last many years, I've seen how that jobs come and go, industries come and go with a changing environment and with a changing political environment, because I've seen how that when you have a change of government in a country, it can completely change the playing field and the opportunities that exist in an industry, and it can completely destroy an industry. I mean, what we're seeing in the UK at the moment is that the new government there is having a tremendous effect upon the economy in a negative sense. And it's all due to the new government's life philosophies and economic policies and economic philosophies. And you can't control that. You know, once the government's there, it's very difficult to get them out before the next elections. And so you're not restricted by government policies. And I'll tell you why, because you have the opportunity to trade currencies from all around the world. Now, I wouldn't recommend trading some countries' currencies. They're a bit too volatile. But you can if you want to. But I mean, if you just stick to the major currencies of the world, like the US dollar, the UK pound, the euro, the Australian dollar, and Bitcoin, things like that, gold, you know, they are not affected by any one government. And if they are, well, then you just leave them out and concentrate on the other ones. So you're not affected by the government policies that change, perhaps in your country. And I saw in the country that I was living in, how that the new government several years ago completely ruined, absolutely ruined the economy. It was, I remember going to see somebody who was a car salesman, and I was chatting to him, and he had tears in his eyes because he said to me, I haven't sold a car for 6 months. And it was all because of government policy that had changed. So, you know, that's the beauty of this job, is that once you know how to do it and you've got the skills, which do take a bit of time, I must warn you, but once you've got them, you're not affected by individual silly government policies at all. Okay, so now the last one I want to mention is the fact that it's probably the cheapest professional kind of job you can do anyway. I mean, if you want a job that really has the ability to produce a lot of money consistently, you really have to go and train for it. Not all the time, but a lot of the time you have to go and spend 3-4 years at university, which really does cost an arm and a leg nowadays. I mean, it can cost, in America, it's unbelievably expensive. I'm not sure what it's like in places like Australia, New Zealand, but even in the UK, it's amazingly expensive. Fortunately, when I went to university, I was able to get bursaries and subsidies, things like that, which helped tremendously. But back then, it wasn't that expensive. But today, it's astronomically expensive. Any kind of professional training you want to do, if you go and look on the internet and see what you have to pay for just a 2 or 3 month course, it's unbelievable. And yet the training that you can get in Forex, if you can find it, I must have warned you that most of it is rubbish and totally unhelpful. But if you can find good training, and there is, if you stick with me, you stick with me for some time, and don't expect miracles overnight. But if you stick with me and you're disciplined, and you stick with me for some time, most of what you need you'll get for free. Now, it's all for free out there on the internet. The problem is it took me 10 years to figure out what was helpful and what wasn't helpful. Now I'm able to lead you through the minefield of worthless information out there. So you can get it most of all for free if you're prepared to discipline yourself and spend some time going through it all. But it's worth an incredible amount when you compare that with what you have to pay for good education. And I have an MBA. I'm also a qualified teacher. I also was the CEO of a national training company in the country in which I live. So I do have some qualifications in order to train people and to educate people. So that can be a help, I'm sure. So those are some of the reasons why I think you should at least consider carefully possibility of becoming a professional, full-time career Forex trader. Okay, so let's look at the last thing I was going to talk about, and that is the kind of personality that you need to have to make a success of this, because it doesn't suit everybody. Let's be honest about it. Not every job suits every person. You need a certain type of personality, and it's possible that you should stay away from this. Okay. Now, when I completed my master's degree, I specialized in the field of leading people groups, effectively leading people groups and effective leadership. And one of the things I had to do was study psychology for that. And that's where I learned an interesting thing, that there are 16 different, scientifically proven 16 different personality types common to humanity. So you are one of those 16 types. And it's amazingly reliable. And you'll find that some of the big companies in the world today use this scientific discovery, scientific training to choose the people they employ. Now, in Japan, it's quite interesting because in Japan, they use blood type in order to assess your suitability for a certain job. But it is possible to determine if a personality is very suitable or slightly suitable or not suitable at all. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the kind of person that probably should stay away from this work and the kind of person who would fit in well with this work. So although we can divide personality, human personality, into 16 different types, let's, for the purpose of simplicity, divide humanity into 2 types. You've got the very spontaneous, creative kind of person who likes to just do things at the off the cuff, just does things spontaneously, creatively, you're probably better to stay away from this work, because you'll probably lose money, because you have to be cold and calculating to make this work. You need to be the sort of person who is quite happy to look at charts for quite a few hours a day. So that may not suit you. You may have ants in your pants and you need to get up and go and rush around the place. And that's great. I mean, that's a great personality to have. And there are plenty of places for people like you. But I don't think this is going to be the right place for you. You need to be analytical. You need to be a little bit cold and calculating. You need to be relaxed and patient. Otherwise, you're going to make too many mistakes and you're going to lose money. The reason you lose money is because you need to put some money in to start with. Now, to start with, you don't need to put a lot of money in to get started, but you don't want to lose money. And a lot of people who get into this business, they keep losing money because they just don't have the skills, first of all, and they don't have the personality that is required to be cold, calculating, careful, patient. So those are the two personalities that I've kind of divided humanity into. Obviously, there are degrees of that. But if you're really on the one side, creative, and you love just getting up and doing whatever when you feel like it, this probably is the kind of business you should stay away from, and be involved in marketing or sales or something like that. Okay, so let's do a quick recap of what I said today. We're speaking about trading currencies as a career, and I spoke about some of the advantages of it. Things like the fact that it's relatively cheap to get into. It's a very comfortable kind of work, and there's lots and lots of opportunities. And then I spoke about the need to have a certain type of personality to make it work. And okay, so where to from here? Okay, so if you think this might be the kind of career that you'd like to invest your time and energy and money in, I would suggest that you follow me for the next 3 or 4 months and give yourself a chance to look at the kind of work it involves, what it requires. I would recommend that you don't put any money into it up front. There's plenty of people out there who want your money. They'll promise you the world and give you nothing. So I would recommend that you just stick with me, and it's not going to cost you anything except a bit of time and a bit of internet. And give it 3 or 4 months, and then you can make a decision from there whether you think this is worth it. And if you decide it's not worth it and it's not what you want to do, then you haven't lost any money. You've just lost a bit of time. And let's face it, anything takes a bit of time. And at least you'll know what you don't want to do. If you decide after 3 or 4 months that this is something that interests you and you think you could make a go of it, then commit yourself to another 6 months of learning, practicing. And the good point about this is you can practice it without having to put any real money in it. You can use a demo account. Now, most brokers will only give you a demo account for a month, but I can show you a way around that so that you can actually use a demo account for about a year. And I would recommend that you don't put any real money in it for a year until you're absolutely sure that you can make money every time. So that's what I would suggest as a way forward from here. And let's talk about the next video. Well, what I'd like to do in the next video is talk about my first disastrous years in this business. You might find that quite interesting, and I'm sure you're going to learn something from that. So I would encourage you to listen to the next video. And if you like this one, just please push the like button and the subscribe, because if you subscribe, then the Google algorithm will direct the next video to you, so I've been told. Well, thank you for your time and your interest, and I'm looking forward to meeting up with you again in the next video, and so bye for now.